Hey, so I'm going to talk about Achdus, but from a different perspective. We all know that when we are together as one in unity, we're unbreakable, and our enemies cannot win and they cannot attack when we stand together. And when we are divided, that's when we are weak, and that's when we can get attacked. And the achdus and the unity that has come from all of this is incredible, and not just amongst the Jewish nation, but from other nations as well. People standing up and standing up for the Jews and standing with the Jews. It's incredible, when we can let go of our differences and our pasts and where we've come from and what we've been through, and when we can just see people for who they really are, see Jewish people, and not only Jewish people, just nations, the entire, humanity. When we can see people for who they really are, their true essence, that's when and we can come together and we can be strong that way. And the achdus that has come from this is inspiring. And that's achdus on a grand level, on a macro level, just us Jewish people and not Jewish people letting everything go and just coming together, standing as one. And it's incredible. And that's something I think everybody has felt and just like stood up for. Then you have achdus and unity amongst your family and your friends. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to come together as a nation, and it's also beautiful to come together with families, with friends, with coworkers, with employees that maybe we haven't been on the best terms with. Maybe we've had some friction. There's also that on a smaller, well, not smaller, but that's like a step down level, the achdus in your own home, and with your parents, with your children. What's that like? And working on that. And then I want to share a little bit of my own personal experience. You have the achdus and the unity within yourself. And are you one with yourself? And I think this, in times like this especially, but I think this gets overlooked. And it's so vital and it's so important, because the way to be one with Hashem, you have to be one with yourself first. You cannot be one with God if you are not one with yourself. If you don't know who you are, you don't know what you stand for, you have no confidence, you don't have self-esteem, and you don't know your worth, you don't know your potential. And if you don't tap into your true essence, not this suit, this body that we're in, your true essence, if we don't connect to that, we'll have trouble connecting to God and being one with God. And I wanted to share my own personal experience with this, because I really struggled with this. And I essentially was living a double life for so many years. I wasn't pretending to be religious, but when I was in religious environments, so I was just religious and I looked religious. It's like, my mom explained it to me once. She said, well, if you're going to be in this certain community, you got to dress the part. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And then she said to me, and she says, well, would you go to a wedding in pajamas? And I said, no, probably not. So she goes, okay, so same idea. And when she kind of like switched that perspective for me, I was like, okay, I can see that. Like, I want to go to a wedding in pajamas. So this community has their rules. I'm not going to go dressed a certain way. But that was just a side note. Back to my point. When I was amongst religious people, I was just doing the religious thing. And then when I wasn't amongst religious people, I was doing whatever it was that we were doing, whether that was partying or drinking or just, in school, in college, university, whatever it was. When I wasn't, being identified as a Jew, I just would identify with whatever crowd I was in. That's also because I didn't have a really strong sense of self. So you just kind of like mesh yourself into your environment, which is a whole another video and topic on its own. But I had two very conflicting parts in me, and I was living a double life. I was not in unity with myself at all. And hence, the reason why there was no God in my life, because I was being pulled in two totally different directions, or it felt like that. And I was not, I very rarely had internal peace. And obviously there were so many other things going on and so many things attributing it to it. But for the sake of this video and my point, I'm going to stick with the unity and the achdus amongst your own self. Like, Are you fully connected? Are all parts of you integrated? Are you at war with certain parts of yourself? Do you judge yourself? Do you criticize yourself? Do you pretend to be somebody who you're really not? Are you afraid to really speak your truth? Are you afraid to shine in certain areas? Are you doing things that you just don't want to do anymore? Are you saying things you don't want to say anymore? Are you hanging out with people that you don't want to be hanging out with, right? This is where it starts. We can't expect to have achdus even amongst our families, with our parents, with our siblings, if we ourselves aren't in unity. And on a greater level, we can't expect to have achdus and be one with God if you are not one with yourself. And going back to my experience, I was never at ease, and for lack of better words, I felt this war inside of me. Like I felt this pull struggle, and it lasted for years, because there when I was in, when I was living a certain way, let's say I was going out and clubbing, right? When I was living that life, in that moment it felt fine because I just fit in with whatever crowd that was. And then I would come, home or go back to wherever it was I was living, and then I would kind of like, okay, this is the role I got to play now, and sort of like morph myself for that environment. And I was having trouble integrating the two, because now I see in hindsight, I wasn't either of those. Like I wasn't either of those. You're not like your external environment. That's not who you are. And I was trying very hard to identify with that because I didn't know who I was inside. And it's very, very challenging. There's very rarely inner peace when you're living a life like that, when you're just living a double life and just playing parts for other people. And this is a struggle that people go through. And my recommendation from my own experience is to just sit with yourself and meditate. That's like number one, because when we're constantly running and playing different roles in different environments, it's like subconsciously we're running from ourselves because we're too afraid to sit with ourselves and get to know ourselves and who we are and who we truly, truly, truly are. And not only that, we don't want to sit with the shadow side and the dark side of us that feels really frightening and scary. But it's only through facing this darkness can we get to the light. You can't go above it. You have to go through it. So only with really sitting with yourself and like asking yourself questions and paying attention to the thoughts in your head can you really come to know yourself. Once you have the awareness and you come to know yourself, you can start living more and more authentic, and this unity within yourself starts happening, because things that are no longer in alignment, people that are no longer in alignment, foods, places, like everything, you'll be so aware of things that are just not in alignment with you anymore, and they fall off, and then this inner peace is sort of created. Well, actually, I'm gonna change that. It's not created, is uncovered. We're all born love. We're all born with peace. That's who we are in our natural state. And then things happen to us, and just life. We are born, and that sort of gets covered up. Like our neshama can get covered up. Our soul, our intuition can get covered, and we just need to uncover it. It's not something we need to create. We just need to uncover it. We just need to uncover it. And huge, huge, huge helpful tip is to start meditating and sit with yourself. I would suggest as soon as you wake up, right before you go to bed, literally set the timer for 5 minutes. And when the timer beeps, you can get up and continue on. But just sit with yourself. You can have an intention if you want to think about a certain thing. You can just focus on your breath if that's what you want to do. Or you can just watch your thoughts and be an observer and not really hop on any of the train of thought. You can just watch it. And I found that very, very helpful to create this inner peace within myself. And obviously it's avoda, it's work, and that's what we're here to do. But that's definitely a start. And so I wanted to really stress this point, because we're seeing so much achdus, and it's like, we know deep down that God is proud. Hashem is looking down at us, and he's like, those are my people, that's my people, and he's proud. And I think, even for myself, I can take this on an even deeper level and start creating unity within myself, within my family, and my close environment, and that will like energetically, that will have a massive effect on the macro level of the achdus of the Jewish people and just nations as a whole and humanity. And that's what I wanted to share today. Sending so much love, and keep the faith, and keep moving on. And Mashiach now.